Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode. For this episode, what I had in mind, or how my eyes have opened to the title of this episode, is that I thought about how do I know what I know, and where is the source of knowing? You see, knowledge is a very important thing, at least in 2022. It's as if they say knowledge is power, but what kind of power? If you think of it in regards to an evolutionary creature using memory and also being aware to the best of its ability of its environment, it's as if, think of it this way, that life is like a machine, or let's say like an engine at first. Let's say it's like an engine. And knowledge is understanding why, the engine is happening, or it's as if you're inside a gigantic engine and you're seeing the relationship between a bunch of gears in that engine. But knowledge also, just like Star Wars, there's a red lightsaber and then there's a green lightsaber. Excuse me. So I would go. I would say that even though the species right now is focused on knowledge, to wonder about how we're knowing the knowledge takes us towards an appreciation or an observance of our mind. You see, when I was younger, I was under the assumption it's just a physical event. But when you wonder about who's looking at the physical event, a completely non-physical mystery opens up. You see, we act like we see things, we can touch things. But what sight is, or let's say what the neurons are doing in the brain, is generating an awareness that surpasses the neuron. So it's as if on one level of reality, it's as if meaningless events are taking place, but in another level of reality, those meaningless events are like the survival of the animal. I there was a time where I entertained this notion of like, teacher student, guru disciple dynamic. But when you realize that the observer within every moment of conscious human intelligence is unknown, then it's as if the battlefield changes. It's as if, or let me say it this way, it's like a playground turning into a battlefield. It's there's too many assumptions of certainty in a changing world, and even though that creates the illusion of safety or security, to truly live on this earth, not as if you know it, but it's as if you've noticed the limitations on knowledge. I have noticed that what the human brain is doing is that it's living another life and an inner life, and that inner life is not humanized. And let me explain what I mean. in front of your eyes, let's say you went to the grocery store. It's like, okay, a human being is living a humanized life, but behind your eyes, it's as if just an first person viewer. I don't know how to tell you this. It's as if like the way evolution is designed, it's that our eyes are not above ourselves to see in third person. It's as if it's first person point of view. But when it comes to knowledge and the explanation of reality, or even in the modality of thinking where we say we are in the world or in a world, again, that's like a third person point of view. Something anybody can try right now is that as I'm talking, just close your eyes and remember what you did a couple hours ago before you heard this talk of mine. Just remember a moment today. And you will notice that what is viewing that image, that memory, is not the memory. It's not in memory. That means it's like we think that the sense of self is a thought, and this thought is thinking a lot of thoughts, but it's not possible. What is aware that is a thought, the source of that awareness is not the thought, which puts our intelligence in a completely different situation than our human intelligence. Because the question is different. If you're a human being, you're like, okay, how did the human body happen? But if you've closed your eyes and you are just awareness to image, and the way I explain imagination is that to me it's like an invisible room. It's like another room. So as I'm talking to you right now, like I have a pen in my hand, I have a piece of paper in front of me, but there's also events, like stuff happening behind my eyes. And the way it appears to me, at least, the relationship I have with my imagination is that when it was based on words, there were so many limitations that would instantaneously actualize. But the moment it became an image, an experience, that means some people are like, yo, the spirit of the cosmos told me to go and do this or do that, But it's as if now, imagine the spirit of the cosmos not having any sort of inner dialogue with the individual, the logos, as Heraclitus spoke about, or Socrates called it the inner oracle, this sort of force that is just moving as you and with you simultaneously. It's as if the logos did not just say words to the person. It's not that they heard things in their mind. It's that they saw film. And the implication of this is so huge, right? That it's as if like this notion of us learning from another person completely goes away. From the beginning of our life, we have been an unknown viewer of existential and experiential events. That's the true teacher, To me, anybody who follows a guru or wants a guru or wants like a truth outside of them, the best case scenario is that the outer teacher becomes a mirror. That's the best case scenario. If the outer teacher, or let's say guru archetype, if the outer guru archetype does not point, let's say, the disciple archetype, the student archetype, to itself, that student will be shackled in the student archetype. Like, this is something a lot of people now in 2022, like, we may not care about it, right? Like, the modern Western audience may not, consider this. But it's like, even though certain parts of the world have developed, certain parts of, like, certain ways human beings are living on this planet has not yet developed. And what's very interesting is that places where there is no education, or how would I say it? I just want to say that there's been human beings on this planet, and they have gone to teachers and gurus, and the guru has shackled that person do you know, has shackled that person to them, do you know? But in reality, it should be the other way, do you know? Or I shouldn't say other way. In reality, it's like the only. It's as if we're going under the assumption of honesty, nobody has a teacher, but everybody's learning from every moment of their being. And you know, it's like, let me tell you the difference. There's some people, let's say, you see a lecture. This is a habit of mine, a hobby of mine, where when I'm doing work, I just put on, instead of music, like a lecture. I just put on like just videos where somebody's gone on stage and is talking, or like, you know, certain university YouTube channels have just like free courses where they're teaching, right? And the way I listen, even if there's a teacher, even if there's someone who knows something I don't, the way I listen is not to become that, but to be like a comrade in the same battlefield. That means a way, here I'll say it this way, a great way you can absorb and listen to things and absorb information is to imagine being there in the same, oh man, the right words aren't finding me, but I'll say this. Your own eyes harbor a mystery that goes beyond anything that can be communicated from the outer realms to your inner realm. So it's as if right now I'm okay. Sure, I'm this person, you know, you know, and wearing t-shirt and jeans and talking about like mystical enlightenment, you know, but but in reality, I am considering that there is an outer world mystery, and then there's 8 billion individual inner world mysteries. That means every person is like an antenna, or the poet Rumi had an incredible analogy. He said truth, or like the human condition, is similar to a mirror that has been broken and shattered to many pieces. And all the pieces of this shattered mirror are reflecting the whole thing. That means it doesn't matter how small or big the mirror is, it's still reflecting the direct reality. From a mystical context, it's as if I can't tell you how many videos I've seen of like yogis and you know, in quotations, like enlightened gurus in India, and where in some sense all they are saying is that before you see or before you do anything, you are like free. You know, there are some people who are seeking freedom, which I term this conditional freedom, where it's as if the circumstances has to be right, and then the desire of the ego is gratified. You know, they feel, okay, I attained the freedom I lacked, you know, which I had a desire to have, right? But then there's an unconditional freedom, where this is the more fascinating one, where it's like if in this whole life you have thought you've living in an illusion or in some sort of, you know, simulation of suffering, for a moment it's as if you press pause on the story that you have for the world, and you just fathom as if what if you were free, total freedom, before you were born. That means it's as if, what if freedom is trying to step out of an illusion, and the only way it can is to realize it is freedom. You know, there's this man by the name of Nisargadatta Maharaj. He has an incredible statement. He says, the timeless can be understood only by the timeless. That means if we were to seek a truth beyond time, we can't be in time. And similarly, if we are to seek a truth that goes beyond matter, then we cannot consider ourselves to be material beings. And you know, because there's so many mysteries to human intelligence currently, like we're living in the pre-knowing of what our mind is era. multiple dimensions are required. I think most people, maybe like 90, let's say 99.9%, you know, of people, people on this planet, they are desiring change of the outer. It's as if you can change what you see, right? But can you change what is seen? In the subtitle, I've written Lovers of the Unknown, and I've also written Is Sight Aware of Sight? I'm going to go into that. Right now, I'm looking at this piece of paper in front of me. And the first question I ask myself is, okay, how am I, or who is seeing this? First answer comes is that the body is existing. There's not even a subjective who. Second answer comes that this body that is existing objectively, in some sense, has stored, or let me say it this way, has access to subjective simulations of itself based on all the memories it has created. Sometimes I feel people should think about living as if, what kind of memory do I want to leave behind for my future self? You know, that's something to consider. And then if I ask, okay, what is aware of my memories which are giving this moment of sight a meaning? You know, it's such a profound thing to realize that your mind is not the truth, but what is aware of the mind can be the only truth. It's honestly like a micro spiritual experience, you know? It's like, just like how I'm moving, like a person can move their hand, in that same instant a person remembers a sense of self, imagine. So it's a movement, it is not the actual. And so it's as if nature has brought forth the human being in an unknown situation. You know, something where so many yogis have been like, have shared their approach to how to get out of samsara. Let's call them enlightened folk, you know. But I find the only way is to ask who is in suffering, who is in the simulation, or let's say from my Abrahamic sense, who is in hell? Who is in sin? You know? Because in the Abrahamic tradition, it's as if redemption is the game. It is like so clear to me that what is aware of an object is not an object, and what is aware of a subject is not a subject, and the subject and object are animations. It's as if it's like this unknown life force that is mobilizing like an atomic existence. And even the moment it realizes it is beyond body and mind, objects and subjects, it's just left with itself. That means truth was never meant to be a concept. It was never meant to be the finale of a story. Truth is a quality of instantaneous being. And those who their attention goes to instantaneous being, you'll totally see, like, it's so beyond, like life is so beyond being taught. You know, it's as if you'll realize you're an unknown explorer. We all are. We've been acting this whole time. You know, language has been a strategy for an unknown movement to ignore itself. But it's also challenging, right? Because we're like this organism, we have memory. The memory is utilized to, in some sense, give meaning to what we see. And then the meaning we see in things, it's like a value system where the free will responds to. Do you know, it's as if right now, I'm not just my memories happening, I'm not just my body, my voice, you know, I am an attention that's just being. That means it's like like think of it this. Oh my god. Think of it this way, that it's as if you are a disembodied attention that is the whole moment. You are space. Your space that has awoken to itself. That is awakened to itself. And space has no content-based life. So you see how freedom is it's like another way. I heard this mystic by the name of Papaji speak about it, where he's like, that ultimate truth that people are seeking, like that ultimate spiritual truth, it is like waves in an ocean, not realizing that whatever happens, it's still the ocean. Even Attar, this mystic, has this Sufi poet has this quote where he says, what does he say? He says the drop is the drop regardless of the sea is the sea regardless of the drop's philosophy. You know, they tell, you know, young children not to watch TV, but really, all of life from its beginning is as if it's like, it's all mainly being viewed. That means just like right now, there's like 3 viewers to this talk right now. I have no idea who these viewers are, but just so it's unknown to me, I get this feeling of, okay, there's unknown ears tuning in to this moment I'm existing. And then I have also this feeling that I am unknown. And in snapshot moments on a treadmill of like a world in time, it's as if I'm pausing to say, okay, this is this is that. You know, another way the question is sight aware of sight, it can be phrased, is that is a memory remembering other memories? Or is a memory having memories? You know? You know, sometimes I think about the ideological position of human intelligence, and I'm like, okay, it's like a masquerade. It's like it was a masquerade party, where after the party finished, the masks were not taken off, and so it's like, even though we are directly experientially existing, but we mask this subjectively, and then our desires are aligned to the subjective. It's as if our inner life is setting the frame of what we want out of the outer life. So when the outer life doesn't follow the inner life, the person suddenly feels as if, oh my god, why is my karma like this? You know, when it comes to discussions on the ego, it's as if like, what does the periodic table owe the ego? You know, it's as if our minds are just like how I pressed the live stream button, on the streaming software for this episode. It's like literally our oxygen going into the when the child takes its first breath. It's as if live stream on. One intent I have for this episode is really that, not that people don't request help from the outer realms, not that people just think that life is something you gotta go at it alone, but to realize that there is a huge possibility, regardless of how what kind of architecture of memory the person has. It's as if the unknown variables of the moment are the salvation that is another angle to the moment. This is the phenomenal thing about life, that the moment we act, the moment there is, like, imagine just a human being sitting on a chair, and then some force, I don't know, let's say the human being wants a glass of water. And the person sitting on a chair, let's say in an auditorium, and suddenly some force moves them. It's like atoms moved against the meaningless natural flow. It's as if when you look at, let's say, a pebble fall from a mountain, and it's just hitting the side of the mountain. It's as if there is no intelligence. We don't say that that's like that pebble is a being, even though it's animated, it's moving. Intelligence is reserved for those that can see themselves, like consciousness, as if consciousness knowing it's conscious. Then intelligence can be a, inner realm performance. And of course, keep in mind, guys, I'm just 1 out of 8 billion inside a space with just countless phenomena going on. I'm like on the shoulder of a giant, being like, hey, we're bigger than what we thought. For me, my spirituality beyond my storification of it, that means it's like, there was a time where, there was Jungian synchronicities, there was like, there was a divinity to the language of the world and how it arose. But after a while, it's as if it's all hovering in the unknown. This is something that no one can really teach. It's just something that whatever knowledge-based entity you are, it's as if you just notice the edge of it. Sometimes I've noticed that what we call understanding is just experiential engagement on a subtler level. That means what a person experiences, they remember. Especially if it's in a context of a journey. But if a person hears words and they cannot see a picture, like words don't become a film to them in their inner realms, it's as if they would say, like, words came in one ear and left the other, left through the other. There's even a story about this. Like, there was this king, and he was gifted these 3 statues by, like, a neighboring kingdom. And then the king looks at his councilmen, and people were there, and he's like, what is this gift? and the gift is just these three statues. And then he says, bring me a wise man. We got to figure out what kind of gift this is, And so many people come and say, I don't know, sir, it's just three statues. It's like, what do you want us to do, And then he's like, no, why did the neighboring king send us this statue? It's like there's a meaning behind it. And then the way it works is that some wise guy comes to the king and gets a stick and puts it in the ear of one of the statues, and it completely goes through the ears and comes out of the other side. Does this for another statue, the same thing happens. The third statue, it doesn't. Like the stick just goes into the ear and doesn't come out of the other side. It's another way of saying that an outer, it's as if something from the outer realms properly landed in your inner realms. If a person likes the yin yang symbol, they can fathom that just like there's the yin in the yang and the yang in the yin, in, let's say, an invisible world and a visible world, there is a visible self in the invisible world. We call that the ego. And there is an invisible, there's the invisible in the visible, and we call that the witness. So it's as if in front of our eyes, so just keep in mind, yin yang, the circles on each side. And I'm pretty much saying that if we took the yin and yang to be our inner realm and our outer realm, inside our inner realm, that image of ourself is like, one circle, and in the outer realms, the witness, the unknown witness. And we could just be just like, let's say, a phenomenon of the cosmos that is like the intersection of two dimensions. We have this view of, like, let's say, the mother and father archetype. And so it's as if, let's say, the body comes from that, but now let's say the mind comes from the mind is the child of two dimensions that are codependent. That means, imagine a bird that's flying, and it has, like, it just thinks one of its wings is the truth, and ignores the other wing, and it's just trying to fly with, like, one wing. It'll land. It will crash. That means if we choose to ignore that we are an unknown mental being, it's as if one wing is not being used. And if we ignore that we're a physical being, it's like the bird can't fly. Human consciousness requires these two dimensions. I had heard that they say, like, in mythology, the human archetypes, like the child of, what is it, Mother Earth and Father Sky. And now here's the interesting thing. If we bring in the idea of simulations of truth and illusion inside a world, and if there are two worlds, could it be that there are two possibilities of truths and two possibilities of illusions. That means the person doesn't have to just awaken from one simulation, they have to awaken from two simulations. So think of it this way: one simulation being how the attention is accepting its response to outer events as it's like there's a reaction to the object and there's a reaction to the subject. If we are convinced by our subjective life, then it's like, what's the point of the outer life? If we're convinced by the outer life, what's the point of the inner life? You know, in these recent talks I'm giving, I'm really closing in on the language threshold. Perhaps a simple acceptance of the unknown, you know, is way beyond, you know, disagreements on what knowledge has to be. I want to go into a quote tunnel for the listeners. And this topic is so huge that right now I don't think I'm accessing all of it, but so a quote tunnel is where I read a bunch of quotes for the audience, either on a specific theme or individual in history. I want to read some Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj quotes. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, once you know with absolute certainty that nothing can trouble you but your own imagination, you come to disregard your desires and fears, concepts and ideas, and live by truth alone. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, when I say I am, in quotations, I do not mean a separate entity with a body as its nucleus. I mean the totality of being, the ocean of consciousness, the entire universe of all that is known. I have nothing to desire, for I am complete forever. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, awareness is primordial. It is the original state, beginningless, endless, uncaused, unsupported, without parts, without change. Consciousness is on contact, a reflection against the surface, a state of duality. There can be no consciousness without awareness, but there can be awareness without consciousness, as in deep sleep. Awareness is absolute. Consciousness is relative to its content. Consciousness is always of something. Shri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, all you need is to get rid of the tendency to define yourself. All definitions apply to your body only and its expressions. Once this obsession with the body goes, you will revert to your natural state spontaneously and effortlessly. I'm going to comment on this quote. You know, I think it's a fascinating view to just consider whoever you are, how much of your life from its beginning till now has been an obsession on self, like an obsession for the self to survive, let's say physiologically, an obsession for the self to survive psychologically, an obsession for the self to survive emotionally. And then once all these obsessions have met, it's like after the person has become a champion of their individualism, then it's like then the collectivity is there. And now let's try to fathom after, let's say, like I'm here right now talking about advanced civilizations on this channel, and it's as if, let's imagine for a moment we have reached that point. It's like, oh, there it is. It's as if we all woke up tomorrow morning and it's like the most advanced human civilization was out there happening. It's as if what then? Eventually it comes back to, instantaneous being. That means after we have championed effort, the effortless remains to be championed. And the greatest masters in this realm, like even martial art masters, they were not fighting in hate. They attain a state of peace, and in that peace there is no emotional turbulence or even their memory becomes automated. Anyways, I want to keep going with the quotes. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, all you need is to stop searching outside for what can be found only within. Set your vision right before you operate. You are suffering from acute misapprehension. Clarify your mind. Purify your heart. Sanctify your life. This is the quickest way to a change in your world. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, truth is not a reward for good behavior, nor a prize for passing some tests. It cannot be brought about. It is the primary, the unborn, the ancient source of all that is. You are eligible because you are. You need not merit truth. It is your own. Stand still. Be quiet. And guys, it's not just Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. It's pretty much anybody who dives into, let's say, the river of knowledge, eventually realizes that whatever it is, there's an experiential presence to whatever indirect ideology the brain simulates. So what it is that I think we have reached, and we have always been there, where we have reached a point where no longer truth is in a state of confusion. That means there is no truth, because it's a quality of how everything is being instantly, not an ideological, reward, as Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, cooperate with your destiny. Don't go against it. Don't thwart it. Allow it to fulfill itself. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, think of that which is the center of the cosmos. Don't let your attention stray in any way from this knowledge of beingness. In quotations, I am. Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj says, all you want is to be happy. All your desires, whatever they may be, are longing for happiness. Basically, you wish yourself well. Desire by itself is not wrong. It is life itself, the urge to grow in knowledge and experience. It is choices you make that are wrong. To imagine that some little thing, for example, food, sex, power, fame, will make you happy is to deceive oneself. Only something as vast and deep as your real self can make you truly and lastingly happy. That's it, guys. This one quote is, it's like even the bullseye, that found the dart, So, if truth is instantaneous, if all have been free before they were born, that means we are freedom, and it's as if freedom forgot it was free, so its misidentification was its enslavement. I think we're reaching a point as human beings, honestly, where it's no longer like the theatrics of personality. We are just states of being. It's like we have never been people. Okay, there's a question in the chat section. Um, what is the okay? So it's a bunch of questions. What is the ultimate choice in the face of the unknown? Okay, and then you say, what do we say to it? Who are you? What are you? Or do we just choose to love the mystery, whatever it is? Um, Here's the strange thing. First of all, very, very nice questions. I don't know if I can pronounce your username in the chat section. I'll just say Quisitor. Here, I'll say this. You know, uh, I would say if you approach it from the view of knowledge, and it's as if you're someone who wanted to know truth, and you tried so many different approaches in your lifetime, and then you realize whatever you do, the vitality of the pursuit for the truth is that it's unknown. You know? So that means the moment the person thinks the world is known, I think that's where, when you're convinced by limitations on perception, then it's as if you suffer. You know, because there's nowhere else left to go. I would say that when it comes to the unknown, the whole point is that you're an unknown viewer noticing an unknown reality. So there is technically no choice. I think what is left, in my experience at least, I mean, I'm still an incarnate, like I still have a biological body, but I've had moments where I have just stared, just through, it's as if like I have not been, Mr. Within, my real name's Amin, I have not been this, I've just been, it's just being. Do you see, it's so instantaneously being that it's as if you don't do anything, it's true. It's still true. And I would say it's not that you try to humanize your relationship with the unknown aspects of your intelligence, but rather to watch it. Right? So there's some people who, let's say, they hear the concept of meditation, they sit down and they're like, okay, I'm meditating, and in their meditation, suddenly they see, like, oh my God, like an angel approached me, you know? There was a time in my life, I'll say this, I mean, I haven't, I think maybe in some episodes I pointed to it, but there was a moment where I felt I saw not an angel with wings, not something that had shape, but I felt I saw light in my inner realms that was overlaid in the outer realms. So imagine you walk into a room and you just see, it's like there is no glowing light outline in the outer realms, but in your mind's eye, you see it in the room, right? And I remember I had an experience like that where I automatically went into a bliss state and then tears arose in my eyes. It's as if imagine you're someone who you're not expecting to see something, suddenly you see something, and it is so out of your memory's expectation of that moment where the system for a second like resets. It's as if it's like tears of how there was an unknown factor to the moment arise. you know those tears are very, very transcendental. It's But anyways, what I'm trying to say is that I felt it was, later on I felt that was like the archetype of Archangel Gabriel. Do you know? But then that was like for a moment, but then the logos, one of the early things the logos told me, which has made it incredibly, you know, a bit difficult for me to talk about metaphysics really, you know. is that it told me not to see a face, not to get attached to a face in the unknown. That means you if you come across an unknown, let's say intelligent animate moment, when you meet the unknown, don't touch it. That's my recommendation here. I'll just simplify. Don't touch the unknown. Because the moment you touch it, a sense of self has attached itself to whatever it saw. You know, it's as if you're in a cinema and let's say the spiritual person who has, let's say, a divine ego, they think that, you know, here's the example. You're sitting in a movie theater. Okay, now imagine in that movie theater on the screen, you know, you're sitting on the chair and you're seeing the screen of the cinema, you know, and imagine on that screen you suddenly see like an angel, right? People don't go suddenly, oh my God, I saw an angel. They don't freak out in the movie theater. They know that it's a screen, and on this screen, images come and go. And if you pay attention to the images, stories take shape. Content arises. It's literally like if you put your hand in the river, it's as if you're touching the whole river, you know. Or if you have a cup and you just scoop up a cup of like river water, you know. It's like, that's like honestly what I'm doing in these Mr.Within talks, you know. That's really what communication is. Because what is experiencing reality, if it's beyond object and subject, it's as if something that's neither an object or subject is using object and using the object and subject to communicate, to exist. Do you see? It's as if we are users of our lifetime. Do you know? And every morning we wake up, we log in. We've logged on to reality. I have reached personally a point where in my inner realms I've seen so many variegations. Like, I can't tell you. Like, there's moments where I don't see like beings. Like, I think I don't care enough to see like a face in the unknown. Like, oh my God, is that some sort of extraterrestrial face I'm imagining? Like, I've never had that much, because to me it's like, you know what it is? It's like a theme park. Your mind can move in so many ways. And if you get attached to a way it moves, the next moment it finds itself in, it either has to honor its memory, or it has to enter the unknown and view the moment anew, and then what is born out of novelty becomes a new memory, which then they have a choice to attach to or not. So I would say, this is my opinion, I think this is the best spiritual practice. I mean, I'm not one to tell people you have to do this to be free or something. Like, I'll say this. I would recommend that everybody, you know, find some time where they get, you know, access to pieces of paper and a pen, and they just sit down wherever they are and they just watch. It's as if, imagine someone told you you have one lifetime to see your own mind, your own intelligence, to figure it out, to solve this Rubik's Cube of how you are being an intelligent entity here, you know? And here's the thing. If you go into a state of trust, I'll say this. Okay, here, this is important to say. If you are in a state of distrust, it doesn't matter what you see in your inner realms, you don't care for it. But if you are in a state of trust, then how your mind happens in the coming moments is revelation, in a sense. So Quisitor, when you say in the chat section, or do we just choose to love the mystery, whatever it is, it's like you don't even know what the mystery is to know what you're loving. You can trust the moment, you know? Or when you identify as the unknown, then it's as if when you love yourself, you have become a lover of the unknown. It's honestly like I'm telling the viewers, watch yourself from within. Become a student of how your intelligence is happening. Every moment, if there's effort and concentration, a person just accesses anything, you know. I can look at something and in my inner realms, that thing can just animate into so many different things. It's as if our minds are an ability to live life before we live it. And so if you pay attention to your inner life and you come into a recognition that this whole time that I have thought I've been this or that, I'm just an unknown witness. I'm just awareness being. And everything else is a rise and fall. It comes and goes. There is an incredible solitude, guys, to truth. I should say to awareness as truth. There's moments where, here, I'll tell you. I mean, I might get a bit emotional. I'll tell you, like, there was a moment where I was just for a second being like, wait a minute. Are you telling me the species, every human being, they see each other, they can communicate with each other, but they will never see each other as they see themselves? You see, it's as if I can, say so many words, but where those words are coming from are in a private server that it's as if only, it's kind of like sometimes I feel if it's destined, the planet has already welcomed. It's not touching us. I was on my balcony smoking a cigarette, and I was just looking out, and I was like, I live in Canada, and I was like, okay, look at this incredible scenery. And for a moment, I was just like, I can totally notice how their inner dialogue and inner image are simultaneous with the outer image. And I was just left there. It's as if for a moment there was no, I don't want to say there was confusion. It wasn't a state of uncertainty. It was a state of simplicity to such a degree where it's as if, honestly, the most incredible, I'll say it again, the most incredible enlightenment advice would be like, don't touch what you see in the museum of your mind, in the art gallery of your mind. And when I say don't touch, it doesn't mean don't communicate. It means don't get attached. Don't let one memory out of all the various senses of self your intelligence has happened through. It's as if don't let a memory of yourself become a dictator of all the various ways your eyes can open in the future. And something even more crucial, not just from, a person can feel like they're attaining spiritual truth and then realize they have, isolated themselves from the outer realms. It's as if it's an energetic activation, all of it. Right now, this talk exists. That means that when I think about it, it's like this talk I'm giving right now, I had an intent. I was like, okay, there was a title, and then I had an intent. And then I just went with the intent, and now I'm here in this moment. I think another word for trust can be like to allow experience. That means when you distrust something, you lock yourself out of the future of that phenomenon or event. And it's as if you trust knowledge in a changing world, and then you see the rise and fall again, and eventually it's like you're left to trust the unknown. That's the thing. Everybody, or I shouldn't say everybody, but most, it seems, most human beings distrust the unknown. It's a source of fear. Where, like, evolutionary wise, when darkness came, creatures couldn't see where they were and they were attacked by predators. So we have like this evolutionary distrust of unknown moments or things that we cannot see. We fear the unseen. But what if we trust the unseen? It's like the chess move we didn't think about. Suddenly, that trust of the unknown, if you have a known desire, it's just gonna its output, it's gonna be known. That means it's the intent. It's like, what do you want from meeting the unknown? And that's where actions and your personalities engage. But when you realize the unknown is unknown, end of discussion. The unknown is unknown. And then you're left in this, like, the ego's shocked into this powerless, like, what it's like, what next if the unknown is unknown? And I will tell you, if you wait in that state, you'll notice the moment is alive before we give it life. We animate. Before we animate, there's something happening. Think of it as if, let's go into a hypothetical Buddhist analysis of something. So imagine there's this Buddhist, or let's say this yogi. Here, I'll say yogi. Imagine there's this yogi, and this yogi hears that there is, like, okay, 7 upper worlds, as the Vedas would explain, and 7 lower worlds. And the earth is like the bottom of Mount Meru, it's like the middle. Now, imagine this person also believes, this yogi believes in reincarnation, and he goes into this, like, to this, let's say, enlightened or liberated sage and yogi, and says, hey, man who knows truth, and this yogi says, is it possible that someone in their past life got enlightened, entered an upper world, and then in their next lifetime they reincarnated a lesser world, but all their achievements from previous lifetimes was still accessible? It's as if, like, someone who's been to the mountain peak in one lifetime, and then in another lifetime they've come to the foot of the mountain again, and they're like, wait a minute, why is it so comfortable? Why am I so comfortable doing what I'm doing right now? That means I sometimes think it's as if, like, how am I comfortable enough to even speak to audiences in a cyber stage? And it's just my presence. It's as if the presence is an instantaneous knowing, and that instantaneous knowing is the unknown realizing it's unknown. So instantly, it's as if knowledge, it's like concepts can't touch you, but if a concept touches you, it possesses you. Do you know? Think of all the ideological systems we have as being examples. Now, because I'm someone who's talked about Civilization 2.0, and in my work, I'm, working on this project of Project Civilization 2.0. I'm pretty much writing a book that is sharing a strategy for our species to indefinitely bypass extinction. It's just a model. It's just a strategy, something I've envisioned. Now, that book is considering the future. So I'm talking about the future in that book, or at least the probabilities of it I see. And when I think about when someone when a human being has met the unknown experientially, directly, not ideologically, uh, when they directly experientially have noticed that it's an unknown presence, and as the body and the personality animate, knowledge is found. Knowledge is emotion. The unknown is in some sense just being. It's still. That means silence and stillness will forever be mysteries for moving noise, So what can human beings do when they reach the unknown? They can just be explorers. That's it. That means if you choose to still have embodiment, it's like it has to be used, right? It's as if your existence is some sort of unique energy and position. It's as if like a soccer player or an athlete, or let's say a soccer player, suddenly opens its eyes and he's in the middle of the soccer field already. It's like there was no players entering, and shaking hands, and then the referee hitting the whistle. It's as if consciousness opened its eyes already inside a game, inside an occurrence, right? And so what can that soccer player do in the soccer field, in that soccer game? You can only play. And if you don't play the game, what happens? The referees, blow their whistles, and it's as if like, okay, what's up with this player? The coach changes you, takes you out of the game, and another player emerges. So I think the point of physical life is like a rare evolutionary opportunity to respond to the reality we find ourselves in. So on some level, regardless of whatever instantaneous truth, metaphysical truth, there has to be some sort of, life must be engaged. So life must be fulfilled here, I'll say that. I think people, they don't want a good life or bad life, they want a fulfilling life, which means that they were an intelligence for a limited while in some place, and that in that place there was possibilities of maneuvering or navigating, and they did not act on it. There's moments in my life, they say, a person has regrets when they, when they're about to die, like when they're on their deathbed, about life. But you can in any moment see the opportunity cost to all of your decisions, all the things that you could have done, but you didn't do, and all the things you did, that you couldn't. Maybe you could have like not done. It's its own poetry. That means there is no logic to a changing world, when in its change the dimensions where the logic is coming from shift. I have for some time had this theory where I wanted to make an episode on it, but anyways, I'll just point it out here in case if I don't. That I felt I experienced this moment where I was like, wait a minute, could it be that consciousness is an invisible sphere? That means right now, there is no human being. There is an invisible sphere where inside that sphere there's the human being. Which is very bizarre, because if there is a hidden energetic truth beyond shape, and all of our knowledge has been based on shape, it's like, what can you do? Honestly, the species is left doing the same thing as our ancestors did as hunter-gatherers in tribes. But now the hunting and gathering is on a multidimensional level. We're not just bringing, like a dead buffalo with spears in it to the tribe. We're bringing, we are bringing understanding of all the different ways our eyes are open, yet in the outer realms we don't know. Anyways, I hope that was some sort of answer to your question in the chat section. And honestly, guys, I'm a very simple person. That means, I give these talks, but in my personal life, I'm just it seems like how would I tell you, I'm just present. I remember when I was young, in school, the teacher in the morning would, call people's names, and the students would be like, present, I'm present, but now, now I am presence. I am not just present, not just consciousness holding on to whatever senses the moment, whatever sensory perception provides in the moment. It's like I am unknown. And the moment I move and animate, that's where the knowledge relativity appears. So I would say if you're someone and you're like, okay, Mr. Within, you talked for an hour or 13 minutes right now, what is the significance? I'll say this, that potentially our species is headed into a recognition of its being that is multidimensional in a way that goes beyond the human idea. So that means I'm like that human being saying that what if we are being dehumanized before we're humanized? What if what a human being is like a polished, concentrated effort of an unknown viewer to respond to what has come to its range of perception? I feel there will be an archaic revival of mysticism, and then the most incredible renaissance of trying to see everything multidimensional will happen in society, everywhere. Right now, we see the world multidimensional, but we don't see ourselves multidimensional. You ask a scientist, "Are you a multidimensional being?" And the scientist is like, "No, man, I'm just, there's a multidimensional world. I believe the world is there's different dimensions you can put it through, but me, no, I'm not multidimensional. I'm just this." But in the future, it's going to reach a point where there's going to be an openness and a collective friendliness to how our inner lives, beyond the persona, have still a contribution to make into the outer realms. Sometimes I've thought, in my talks, I noticed I am saying an advanced communicator. Advanced communicators build advanced civilizations. But could an advanced communicator be beyond human, beyond the human archetype? That means it's a suggestion that intelligence, by remembering it is intelligence, instantaneously will be intelligent. That means by knowing its being, it is. And an advanced civilization means that the most advanced state requires to be for the individual. So that means it's as if the most advanced self, if it's a suggestion beyond humanized locality, and then what that deserves. That means it's another way of saying, like, what does the most advanced version of your intelligence deserve? And that's when some people would say, "Hey, is that God in the mirror?" Before there's a face. Anyways, guys, thank you for listening. I hope this episode was helpful. Everybody is a student of their eyes. Our moment of being is our true teacher, and it has been there from the beginning. Before I was a person, I was a presence of attention, just moving as a biological body. I have a memory of my childhood before I learned language, and it was just sight. It was like I was just being sight, you know? And then when language comes in, it's like, just like we say the eternal is temporary for a little while, is experiencing how it's temporary. It's like the unknown is being known for a little while. And what that unknown presence does means the edge of thought. That means it's as if we are reaching a point where we're accessing an intelligence that we can have no opinion on. It is the valve where if it's open, it animates, you know? And in the chat section, I see Quisitor Benjamin says unknown witness. No witnesses. Quisitor says in the chat section, I would love you really explain the advanced communicator in a future talk more in depth. Yeah, there's a talk I gave called Arrival of the Advanced Communicators. I would recommend. I would recommend you to listen to that. I think right now it's in the membership. I mean, my intent is to, first of all the talks on in this channel is going to be public, and I'm even turning off the ads on the ones that are eligible. But still, I'm customizing a lot of the videos, and they're in the membership for now. But I think soon they'll be out. So if you don't like the membership, you can just wait and. That episode of Arrival of the Advanced Communicators, maybe in like what I'm doing is like I'm just editing every video. It's like description text and it's thumbnail, and that takes like there's 1,000 of them left before I can make them public. So if you want early access to the video, there's membership. You know, I think maybe in a little bit I'll be able to. What do you call it? The future will arrive, you know, and to some it already has. Thanks for listening, guys. Much blessings and namaste.